Imagine winning like the most competitive high-stakes music contest in the entire world.
Right.
And now imagine doing it by dressing up as a giant insect and singing absolute gibberish.
A pretty wild visual, yeah.
It really is. I
Yeah.
mean, you take home the trophy, you become a national hero, and your whole life changes, but then, time passes.
As it does.
Right, so imagine it's 18 years later, you're a fully grown adult, and you're standing on this massive international stage, just begging the world to take you seriously as a mature artist. Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah, we've got a really fascinating stack of sources on the table for you today.
We really do. We're pulling from, well, a comprehensive Wikipedia history of the Georgian musical group Bzikebi. We've got extensive historical performance data and lyric translations from Eurovision World.
Plus the current betting odds for the upcoming 2026 contest.
Exactly. And even some highly revealing YouTube comment sections that show exactly what the public is, really thinking right now.
It's a remarkable collection of data, honestly, because it allows us to track this complete life cycle. I mean, we are looking at a group attempting something almost unprecedented in pop music.
Yeah.
They're trying to overwrite a globally recognized childhood novelty act with a credible adult artistic identity.
And that is exactly our mission today. We are going to explore the incredible 18-year evolution of this trio. We're going to look at how they reached the absolute pinnacle of their industry at the age of 10 in literal bee costumes.
Literal bee costume.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how they're now navigating this incredibly treacherous leap to become adult global contenders at the Eurovision Song Contest 2026. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, to truly understand the sheer scale of the mountain they're trying to climb today, we really have to start by analyzing the phenomena that trapped them in the public's memory in the first place.
Right.
We have to go back to the origin story.
We're going back to November 2008. The Junior Eurovision Song Contest is being held in Lemessos, Cyprus. Enter Bzikebi.
And this is a musical trio, right?
Right, made up of Georgi Shulashvili, Mariam Kikwashvili, and Mariam Tatulashvili. Now, what's completely wild here, looking at the timeline and our sources, is that all three of these kids were born in early 1998, meaning when they walked onto that incredibly intimidating international stage, they were just 10 years old.
I mean, 10 years old, carrying the flag for their country and executing a creative concept that was, frankly, an unprecedented risk for a competition of that magnitude.
An unprecedented risk that paid off historically. They won the entire contest, raking in 154 points.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think we really need to paint a picture of exactly what this performance was for you, the listener, because it wasn't just a pop song. It was this full-blown visual and auditory spectacle.
Oh, absolutely.
They performed a track called Bruz, and they did it wearing these elaborate black and yellow striped outfits that made them look like giant singing bees.
Right.
But here is the absolute kicker. They didn't sing a single word in Georgian. They didn't sing in English or French or Spanish. They sang the entire song in a completely made-up language.
That's right. If you look at the sheet music and the lyrical structure, it was essentially purely phonetic buzzing and rhythmic vocalizations.
Which is just...
There were no translatable lyrics to anchor the song.
It's just mind-blowing to me. I mean, winning an international music competition with a made-up language is kind of like winning a global cooking show using imaginary ingredients.
That's actually a great way to put it.
Right. You are completely removing the main metric that people usually use to judge your craft. The energy they brought to that stage must have been so universally infectious to just completely transcend linguistic barriers like that.
Yeah.
How does that even work on a psychological level?
Well, that cooking analogy is actually quite fitting, and there is a deep structural reason why this approach was so effective.
Okay.
By bypassing traditional spoken language, the songwriters tapped into something we call pure phonetic joy.
Pure phonetic joy. I like that.
Yeah, you see, processing language requires cognitive friction. Your brain has to hear the words, translate them, apply cultural context, and, parse the syntax to find meaning.
It's work.
Exactly, it's work. But pure sound. A driving rhythm accompanied by a bunch of 10-year-olds enthusiastically buzzing around a stage.
Yeah.
That bypasses the linguistic centers of the brain entirely and triggers an immediate visceral reaction in the limbic system. It removes the friction of understanding and replaces it with pure, unadulterated feeling.
It was lightning in a bottle. It was a spectacle that didn't ask anything of the audience other than to just smile.
Yeah.
And they absolutely capitalized on it.
They really did.
The sources show that right after this massive win, they released a full album called Zabuzai, and they didn't just fade away either.
No, not at all.
They became absolute foundational staples in the Junior Eurovision orbit. They came back as an interval act in 2010.
And we should probably clarify for anyone who might not, watch the contest religiously.
Good point.
An interval act is that highly coveted, globally broadcast performance slot that happens while the voting is being tallied across Europe. It's prime real estate.
Right, thank you. So they get that prime real estate in 2010. They make a guest appearance to deliver the voting results in 2011. They show up again for the 20th anniversary broadcast in 2022.
Wow, so they really stuck around.
Yeah. And our sources note they even just had a major high-profile reunion as an interval act at the 2025 contest in Tbilisi, performing a song called We Don't Sleep.
I mean, they were undeniably the golden children of Georgian Eurovision. They completely defined a specific era of the contest. But, that legacy is a heavy thing to carry.
Which brings us to the core tension of our deep dive today. How does a group that defined their entire existence, their entire brand, around a literal buzz in their childhood, shed that insect shell to compete as credible adults?
Right.
Because you certainly can't just buzz your way to the adult Eurovision trophy. The standards, the audience, the voting criteria, it's an entirely different beast.
It is a completely different arena. And that brings us to the highly anticipated announcement that dropped in January of 2026.
Oh, yes?
The Georgian public broadcaster, the GPB, officially announced that Bzikebi would represent Georgia at the Adult Eurovision Song Contest in Vienna.
It's happening.
They're officially slated to compete in semi-final 1, which takes place on May 12, 2026.
And they just released their brand new entry, a song called On Replay, on March 11th. So the wheels are in motion. They are making the leap.
And we really need to emphasize for you just how statistically rare this leap is.
Oh, yeah. Give us the numbers.
In the entire multi-decade history of the contest, Bzikebi is only the 4th junior winner to ever make it to the adult competition.
Only the 4th? That's wild.
It is an incredibly exclusive club. They're following in the footsteps of the Tolmashevi sisters from Russia, Destiny Chikunier from Malta, and Iru Kechanovi, who is also from Georgia.
So they are stepping into very rare territory. But they aren't just carrying the burden of their own personal history here. They are walking onto that stage carrying the weight of an entire nation's Eurovision struggles.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Georgia's history at the Eurovision Song Contest is largely defined by intense frustration.
Frustration is putting it lightly.
According to the historical data provided by Eurovision World, Georgia has participated 17 times since they made their debut in 2007. And in all of those attempts, they have never won. Not once.
Wow. 17 attempts and no trophy. That is a lot of pent-up national hope.
It is, and their absolute best showing was 9th place.
Which isn't bad, but
that happened over a decade ago in 2010 and again in 2011. Since that peak, it has been a very tough, demoralizing road for the delegation. They've suffered last-place finishes in their semifinals in 2014, 2018, and 2022.
just brutal statistical basements. And while we're looking at their historical data, there is a fascinating piece of trivia in the sources about the one single year they didn't compete. 2009.
Ah, yes. Their single withdrawal from the contest. It's a very revealing moment about how the broadcaster operates.
Right.
The sources note that in 2009, Georgia selected a song called We Don't Want to Put In. However, shortly after it was chosen, a controversy erupted over the lyrics.
Okay.
The European Broadcasting Union, the EBU, which governs the contest, flagged the song, stating that the lyrics violated their strict rules against political messaging or double meanings in the competition.
I see.
The EBU essentially issued an ultimatum: alter the lyrics, or you cannot participate.
And the Georgian broadcaster took a hardline stance. Now, to be clear to you listening, we're not taking any sides on the politics of that. We're just impartially reporting the history here.
Exactly.
But the broadcaster firmly refused to change the words and decided to just pull out of the contest entirely for that year. So, strictly from a historical perspective, it really shows you how seriously Georgia takes their entries.
Yeah, they do not compromise on their creative vision.
No, they don't. But fast forward to today, and that same broadcaster is desperate for a win. They are hungry to break this streak of bad luck. And they are putting all their chips on the team behind Bzikebi's new track, On Replay, to be the intervention they need.
Which logically leads us to a breakdown of the song itself.
Let's do it.
Because if you look at the mechanics of On Replay, it becomes very clear that this is not just a standard musical entry. It is a highly calculated, meticulously engineered PR intervention.
Oh, absolutely. Let's look at the architects of this track. The Georgian delegation did not mess around with the creative team here. They brought in the heavy hitters.
We really did.
The song is composed by George Kukinedze, who wrote Georgia's 2023 entry Echo. The lyrics are penned by Lizzie Pop, and the staging, which is crucial for how the audience perceives them visually, is being directed by Sagiv Karpel, who orchestrated the staging for Georgia's incredibly dynamic entry Firefighter in 2024.
They have assembled an absolute powerhouse team of Eurovision veterans. This isn't just throwing a song at the wall to see what sticks.
No.
Bringing in a director like Karpel, who specializes in mature, high-impact visual storytelling, is a very clear signal.
Right.
The broadcaster is actively using staging and composition to psychologically signal maturity to the voting public. They are trying to visually overwrite the memory of those 2008 costumes.
So let's dive into these lyrics, because when I was reading through the translation data from Eurovision World, a few specific lines practically jumped off the page.
Yeah, the lyrics are very telling.
The song opens with this driving, sleek electronic beat, and then the lyrics hit. Lights on, stand by, unmasked, you and I. And a little later in the track, they sing, can't digitize our thunder, no code, no clone.
Unmasked. I mean, that is an incredibly loaded word to use for this specific group, given their history.
Look, I have to stop and push back on this for a second because I want you, the listener, to really think about this with us. I read these lyrics and I have to admit I'm a bit skeptical.
Really? How so?
Unmasked, you and I. Isn't that just like standard generic pop writing? People sing about taking off masks and being their true selves on the radio every single day.
That's true.
Are we absolutely sure there is actual evidence in the sources that they are directly referencing the 2008 B-suits, or are we just projecting that narrative onto a fairly standard pop anthem?
It's a fair challenge, I hear you. But if you analyze it within the context of the team that wrote it and the historical burden the group carries, it's almost certainly a deliberate double entendre.
Okay, lay it out for me.
On the surface, yes, it functions perfectly well as a defiant modern pop anthem about authenticity, but subtextually to the Eurovision fandom, it is a targeted declaration of independence from their past.
What? I see where you go.
In 2008, they were completely obscured by a massive uniform gimmick. They were literal clones of each other in those identical B-suits.
Oh, right.
So when they sing Unmask and No Clone, they are directly addressing the elephant in the room. They're saying, we're no longer the identical little worker bees you remember. We are individuals.
Okay, when you frame it around the no clone lyric, that does make a lot of sense. It's like they're weaponizing their own lore to write their new chapter.
Precisely. And yet, if we look closely at the chorus, there is a fascinating paradox built into the architecture of the song. The main hook is them demanding, keep me on replay, okay?
Keep me on replay.
Yeah, they repeat it relentlessly. And in the bridge, the lyrics state, right here, right now, no maybe, no void that can take me.
So they're fiercely demanding to be looped and remembered right now in the present moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're actively fighting against the void of being forgotten, or worse, being replaced by fleeting digital fads, which is why they include the line, can't digitize our thunder.
Oh.
They want to be the thing you put on replay today as the 28-year-old adults they are now.
But here's the ultimate irony, right? They are singing about not being a clone. They are demanding to be taken seriously in the present moment. But is the European public actually ready to separate the 28-year-old adults standing under the dramatic lighting in Vienna from the 10-year-olds buzzing around in Cyprus?
Well, that is the million-dollar question that will decide their fate in May. And if we look at the data we have right now, the answer is incredibly complicated.
Let's hit the reality check.
Yeah.
Because the Eurovision World betting odds paint a very harsh picture for Georgia.
Yeah, it's not looking great.
If you were looking at the odds right now, you might naturally assume that a returning champion with a massive built-in fan base would be a safe bet. But the data tells a much rougher story.
Right. Let's look at the leaders.
Currently, Finland is absolutely dominating the board. They have Linda Lampenius and Pete Parkkonen with a song called Leichenheiten, and they're sitting with a commanding 28% chance of winning.
In a field of dozens of countries, 28% is a massive lead.
Massive. France is trailing in second with 12%, and Denmark is right behind them at 11%.
And where exactly is Georgia sitting in this metric?
Georgia is sitting at a less than 1% chance of winning. They are languishing all the way down in 27th place in the odds. So what does this all mean? Why does the data look so incredibly bleak for a group with literal Eurovision gold running through their veins who are backed by a powerhouse creative team?
Well, to understand why the odds makers are so hesitant, you really have to look at the court of public opinion. And our sources gave us a really revealing glimpse into this through the YouTube comments under the official music video for On Replay.
It really is a tale of two completely different
It
audiences.
really is.
On one hand, you have genuine, warm international support from people taking the song at face value. There's a comment from a fan in Greece that just says, "Very nice song. Love, hugs, and kisses from Greece, complete with heart emojis."
People are genuinely connecting with the track as a sleek, modern piece of pop music.
But then, you have the other side of the coin, the side that remembers 2008.
Right.
There is a highly upvoted comment from a Russian viewer, and the translation of this comment is just brutal for their rebranding efforts. It says, "I can't take this seriously. I still see them as those kids in bee costumes singing BZ, BZ, BZYU, BZYAU, ending with a laughing emoji."
What's fascinating here is that this single comment perfectly encapsulates the psychological mechanism behind the child star curse.
Child star curse.
Yeah, it's a cognitive phenomenon known as anchoring bias.
Yeah.
The public's very first impression of you becomes an unmovable anchor in their minds.
Wow, okay.
For Bzikebi, that anchor wasn't just a catchy song. It was a highly visual, costumed, phonetic spectacle at age 10. Nostalgia is a double-edged sword.
Right.
On one hand, it gets you in the door. The mere fact that they are returning generated instant headlines, global media attention, and guaranteed them an audience.
It's basically built-in PR that other countries would kill for.
It is. But the flip side of that sword is that erasing an anchor that heavy requires immense cognitive friction.
Yeah.
The public often vehemently refuses to let you grow up. The very gimmick that made them famous, the bee suits, the phonetic buzzing, is now acting as a psychological barrier. It is actively preventing odds makers, and a significant portion of the fans, from viewing them as credible adult artists.
Because they just can't unsee it.
Right. When that commenter hears a sleek electronic beat, their brain is stubbornly overlaying the sound of BZBZ.
It's like trying to run for mayor in your hometown, but your campaign poster is just your awkward middle school yearbook photo.
Yes, perfect analogy.
Right. Every single time you try to stand at the podium and talk about serious tax policy, the audience is just laughing at your braces. You aren't just fighting your political opponents, you're fighting an invisible ghost of your past self.
Exactly.
For Bzikebi, it's not just about hitting the high notes in Vienna. It's about erasing an 18-year-old memory that the audience actually loves and doesn't want to let go of.
It requires a tremendous amount of psychological resilience to stand on a global stage and to mean, look at who I am now, when millions of people are screaming back, but we loved who you were then.
Yeah.
They aren't just performing a song, they're trying to rewrite their own history in real time.
It really is an incredible journey to track.
Oh.
We have watched Bzikebi evolve from 2008's pure phonetic joy into this defiant electronic era with On Replay in 2026.
We really have.
They are walking onto that stage in Vienna, battling on two entirely different, incredibly difficult fronts. They are fighting the immense pressure of a nation that hasn't cracked the top 10 in over a decade and is desperate for a victory.
Right.
And at the exact same time, they are fighting the heavy, suffocating gravity of their own childhood fame. I want you to think about that for a second. Think about how hard it is to change your personal brand or reputation in your own life.
It's not easy.
Maybe you're trying to get a promotion at work and you need your boss to stop seeing you as the junior employee you were 5 years ago. Or you want your family to see you differently than they did when you were a teenager.
It's exhausting, right?
Oh, absolutely exhausting.
Now, imagine trying to execute that rebrand in front of a global audience of millions, an audience whose absolute favorite memory of you is when you were 10 years old in a striped costume.
It frames their upcoming performance in Vienna not just as a standard musical competition, but as a fight for their very artistic identity.
It really does. It elevates the stakes entirely. And it leaves us with one final, broader thought to mull over based on the implications of the data we've explored today.
Let's hear it.
If Bzikebi does fail to qualify in Vienna, if the odds makers are right, and the audience simply refuses to let go of the 2008 buzz, what does that say about the Junior Eurovision Contest as a whole?
Oh, that's a good question.
Are these competitions actually celebrating and launching young talent? Or are we inadvertently sabotaging their future adult careers by turning them into inescapable childhood memes? Because if the public can only ever play back the 2008 version of them in their minds, is being on replay exactly what's holding them back?
Now, that is a question worth keeping on replay. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.